This is Rostra, the St. Theodore Guerin Junior Classical League podcast, where we bring the lessons of classical study into the light for the benefit of all. Welcome to this first episode of Rostra, or sort of. Let me explain what that means. We're launching a podcast in the fall of 2022, when school resumes in August. But we wanted to give you a little taste of what that podcast is going to be like over the summer. So this isn't really season 1, not quite yet. This is actually season 0, if you will. So what is this going to be all about? Well, this is an opportunity for Latin students at St. Theodore Guerin Catholic High School in Noblesville, Indiana, to talk about some of the various things that they are researching, learning, and really just bringing what they explore in class out into the broader world. You see, we take very seriously something that the ancient Roman philosopher and statesman Cicero once said. In one of his works, he wrote that people should be ashamed of themselves if they spend all of their time in literature and really bring forth nothing from what they've read into the public light or into the good for everybody. And so that's what we want to do with this podcast. And so over the course of a few episodes here in the summer of 2022, leading up to the real launch of our podcast, I'm just going to have a few episodes to kind of set the stage for this. So who am I? Well, I'm Steve Perkins. I'm the Latin teacher at St. Theodore Guerin Catholic High School. And I've taught for over 30 years, mostly in public schools in Missouri, Texas, and Indiana. And it's been my great blessing and a great pleasure to have moved from public education into the school here at Guerin. And Latin has really been, my professional life. I mean, I just loved it in high school. Knew right away that I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and so I decided I wanted to teach Latin. Met my wife in Latin class while we were studying at Indiana University, and she's a Latin teacher as well. And so it really you want to ask that question, why Latin, right? Why Latin in the 21st century? Isn't that a dead language? It's an ancient language. What on earth could possibly be the point? So over the course of a few episodes this summer, I'm going to walk you through some answers to the question, why Latin? And in this episode, I want to take just a quick look at the language itself. Latin is a great language. It was used for philosophy and science and poetry and history and law and so much of the great culture of the Roman Empire. But what's important about its study today? Well, there's just something about the way Latin is constructed, and I'm really talking now about the grammar and the syntax, that is of a great help to anybody who's studying English or really any other language, not even just the Romance languages, and I'll come back to that point in just a moment. But there's something about studying Latin, at least the way we traditionally present it, by exploring the ins and outs of how a language actually works. What's really going on under the hood, as it were. And so many students have told me over the years that they've really learned more about English than from their study of Latin than maybe they even did in English class. And part of the reason for that is that delving into the grammar and the syntax of how things work. Now, I said it would help with any language, and that's certainly true when it comes to the Romance languages. We think of Italian and Spanish and French and Romanian, Portuguese, and so forth. In fact, I remember when I was in high school, I was sitting at the lunch table, and one of my friends had her notebook out on the table, and I really thought she took Latin. And I looked in her notebook, and I saw what I thought were some mistakes. And so I thought, well, I'll be a good friend. I'll start making some corrections for her. And she looked over at me, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, you've got a few mistakes here." And she said, "I don't take Latin, Steve. I take Spanish." Right? That's just how close Spanish was to Latin, that knowing Latin made it so much easier to pick up other languages. And you say, well, what about maybe the Eastern languages? What about things like Russian or Chinese or Japanese or any other world language? A good professor, a friend of mine at Indiana University, Tim Long, who is a professor emeritus of classics there, longtime favorite professor of so many students in Latin and Greek and culture and history and so forth. He was telling me one time that he and another professor friend of his had decided they wanted to pick up Japanese. So they went to class the first day and listened to what was going on. And as soon as they left the class, they sat down and said, okay, we're going to bring out our Latin and Greek grammar and try to organize what we're hearing according to the systems that we know from having studied classical languages. And even though Japanese is very different linguistically from Latin or Greek, nevertheless, their experience with how to learn a language from Latin and Greek really helped them as they were approaching this new and modern language. So it's an exciting thing to learn. There's a lot that we're going to cover over the course of the next few episodes, and we look forward to having you back here on Rostra. Thank you for listening to Rostra. You may check out all our episodes on Spotify and follow us on social media at GuerinJCL. That's at GuerinJCL.